Guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another video. I am going to be doing a recap of all the books that I've read in the past like 6-ish months because on my channel it's been quite a while since I've done a recap just because I feel like my reading has slowed down quite a bit. I definitely was not reading enough books each month to where I felt like I could do a recap, if that makes sense. I have books pretty much from like September to now that I want to talk about that I haven't talked about much on this channel. So also, I am wearing a microphone because this room is really echoey, so if the audio is weird, please just bear with me. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to make it sound better for you guys because I know the echo is really, really annoying. Usually when I read books, I like to write a little recap like in my notes app of what I liked about the book or what I didn't like about the book and my rating, so I'm going to try to remember as much as I can based off of like what I wrote at the time. I'm really, really excited, you guys. When I was like picking the books off of my shelf, I was like, oh my gosh, I miss this so much. Like, I just miss talking to you guys about books and sharing my opinions and everything like that. So I'm really, really excited to get into it. So yes, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into all the books that I've read recently. Starting off strong, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I had this book on my shelf for so long and I finally read it in a reading vlog. There was a lot of things that I loved about this book and a lot of things that I didn't love so much. Basically, the premise of the story is we have Addie LaRue. She is a young girl. She decided to make a deal with death, basically the devil. Whenever she meets someone and they like go out of the room or she like doesn't see them for a second, they completely forget who she is and they have no like recollection of ever talking to her before, but she remembers everything, like every interaction that she has with them. So it's honestly like a really sad book because you're hearing the thoughts that go through someone's head when like nobody in the world remembers them, and it's really, really sad. You know that saying that everyone says, to be known is to be loved, and when nobody knows you or remembers you or has any like memories with you or anything, it's really, really sad. We have the timeline of when it first happened and the timeline of like more present day. So she's been experiencing this for a really, really long time. Yeah, it literally goes back to like the 1700s. I really enjoyed the writing in this though. I do think that it reminded me a lot of like Jessa Hastings' writing, just the way that it was like super metaphorical and like whimsical writing. I wrote in my notes that it's kind of like shower thoughts, just like very deep things that you would think about when you're in the shower. So many things in this book were like, oh my gosh, like, wow, that's so interesting to think about. So I thought that was kind of cool. To be honest, like, I didn't love the character of the devil and death. It just gave me very eerie feelings. It also did talk about God quite a lot. And so we have like both perspectives there. I feel like there wasn't a lot of closure to the story. It was really interesting, not like anything I've ever read before. Overall, I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was a good book. It was definitely interesting. Okay, I believe I also read this in a reading vlog, but this is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. And this is actually a Christian fiction. This is the very first Christian book I've ever read before. I've definitely grown in my faith a lot the past few months, so I was excited to finally get into a story that revolved around the Christian faith and just kind of took you through a testimony. It was a really, really good story. It was so good to see how the Lord can move in someone's life from like not knowing God at all and just completely living for the world, and then, you know, this guy coming into her life and giving her everything that she could possibly need and just completely transforming everything in her life. And it was just such a good story, so moving. It's giving me chills just talking about it. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't like super like religion based. It was a lot more about like a relationship with God, which is what Christianity should be. And I just love how it plopped like verses in there and just like who God is and how amazing it is to live for him. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this story and I'm excited to get into another one of her books. I actually have The Masterpiece by her, and I think I have one more, The Voice of Wind or something like that. I rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars. So good. Okay guys, next I read The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden. This is the second book in the Housemaid series. The first one, I want to say I rated it like 4 stars. Actually, I think I rated the first one 5 stars. I could be wrong on that. I feel like it was like definitely up there. I really enjoyed it. So I was really excited to go into this one. I definitely heard some mixed reviews on it, which kind of stinks like about the reading community is you hear a lot of different opinions, and it kind of like, as much as we don't want it to shift our opinion on the books, it definitely does, like hearing other people's opinions. Yeah, I was a little bit skeptical, but I was excited. Unfortunately, I really did not enjoy this book. I was pretty much the same concept, same storyline, just in different font. We had the same character going through the same exact things, basically. Definitely different twists, but you guys, I cannot stand the main character and her delusion. Like, I wish I had this type of delusion, because I would go through life not giving a crap about anything. The things that the main character says and she thinks, like, I don't know, I just feel like she had no common sense, honestly. Yeah, a lot of people like this book, a lot of people like this series, so to each their own. I rated this 3 out of 5 stars. It was still a good mystery thriller, but not anything spectacular, that's for sure. Okay, now we're going into October, and I'm just so excited to talk about this book because this book is one of my favorites, honestly. I want to reread it so bad. But I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and you guys, I fell in love with this story and fell in love with Emily Henry's writing again. She is one of my top favorite authors. I love her books so much, specifically Happy Place. I've read that 2 times. I want to reread it again. Anyways, so this was like one of her only books that I have not read. I guess on her newer list, I haven't read any of her like backlist books, but I had been putting this off for so long. I don't know, I just didn't want to like be done with all of her books, but I finally got into it, and I just absolutely love this story. So both of them work in like the book world. I think they work together. I'm pretty sure they work together. Nora wants to take a trip away and just kind of like get away with her sister in this small town. Ends up being Charlie, which is where he is from. I'm like trying to remember everything. This was quite a long time ago that I read this. So they end up being in the same town, and it's just like small town vibes. Banter is so good. I definitely related a lot to the main characters. I loved the family dynamic that we had between Nora and Libby and their sister bond. And overall, I just love the feeling that this book gave me. I want to reread this again so bad. I just need to reread all of her books. Maybe I should do a video where I read all of Emily Henry's books, including her new one that's coming out next month. I'm so excited. I rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars. So good. Okay guys, next we have a series. This is the first book in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And I was really excited to read this because I heard so many good things about it. It is a 3-book series. It's a murder mystery. It's YA. I knew it'd be super fast-paced to read. Unfortunately, you guys, I did not enjoy this book at all. I truly felt like they took the plot of Pretty Little Liars and just put it into 3 books. Honestly, this whole first book was pretty much the entire plot of Pretty Little Liars. I'm sorry if that's a spoiler, but if you've watched that show, it is literally a direct copy. Like, it frustrated me so much, especially because I had already bought all 3 books, which is my own fault. I probably should have waited to see if I actually like the series, but I didn't even read the last 2 books because I was like, dude, this is just like a complete carbon copy. And yeah, it just really frustrated me. Anyways, that was my opinion on this. I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. I'm so sorry. I feel like that's a very, very unpopular opinion. I personally just did not connect to it. I didn't like the writing. It would just felt so cheesy. And I know it's YA, so I try to give it some leniency. I don't know, guys. It was not for me. And then I finally got into the last book of the ACOTAR series. I was literally reading this whole entire series throughout 2024. My own fault, but the books are super long, so it takes a lot of time to invest into it. How many pages is this? This is like 750 pages. So I feel like it's valid to take a long time to get through this. I did end up listening to this on audiobook just because I truly did not have the time to spend sitting down and reading this entire thing, especially because I was just so over the plot at this point and the story. I've heard a lot of people say that the plot is kind of lost, and I fully agree with that. I think that this didn't have anything really to do with what was happening in the main three books, really, because the 4th one is just like a novella. I was also watching Bookmarked, which is Destiny and Sarah's podcast, and they were saying that apparently the last 2 books in the series weren't even like planned. It was really just the first 3. And I just thought that made so much sense because I feel like everything just wrapped up like how it needed to. But then we added the 4th book, which is a novella, which, I mean, it was just like a Christmas story basically. And then this one, it felt so unnecessary. Although I really did enjoy seeing like Nessa's story and other people in the book, but there was so much smut that I just like, I don't know, I didn't really enjoy my time reading this, unfortunately. With the amount of time that I invested into listening to the audiobook, it just did not feel worth it. I'm glad that I like actually finished the series instead of just DNFing it. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars because I still do love the characters, and I'm pretty sure she's coming out with another one, so that's gonna be interesting. Next, we're going into November. So as you can see, I definitely slowed down reading a lot because earlier in 2024, I was reading like 6 to 7 books a month, and now it was slowing down to like 2 to 3 books a month. I've also been working a lot more than when I used to work, so I think that has a lot to do with it. Next up, I read The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. I absolutely love this story so much. It was so good. I've been wanting to read this for quite a long time. Heard a lot of good things about it. Is this lighting dark? Like, I don't know what's going on. Heard so many good things about it, and I knew that I loved Rebecca Yarros' writing because of her writing the Fourth Wing book, or the Fourth Wing series. This is a romance book though. In past time, we have this woman and her husband tells a story of them, and then we have present time, which is about the granddaughter of the lady in past time. So we have 2 different timelines, and it kind of tells like the story of both of them. So in past time, we have this woman and her husband, and she's writing a book, and she passes away before she can finish it, or she just chooses to not finish it. I don't exactly remember. She doesn't finish the manuscript. So we had the manuscript in present day that is unfinished, and this granddaughter is looking for someone to finish the book. So they have to find like an author to come and finish the book. And yeah, it has both timelines, and it's just such a good story. Like, you see both timelines, both love stories, and it is literally so good. And the ending is crazy. I actually bought this book for one of my friends, and she read it as well, and she loved it too. But yeah, I rated this 4.75 out of 5 stars. So I almost gave this 5 stars. It was just so good. It was really fast paced too. I mean, it's a pretty long book, but there's not that many like words on the page, and it just goes by really fast. Okay guys, then we finally got into one of my favorite series that I've gotten into, and I'm so excited to continue it, and that is the Binding 13 series. This is crazy because I have heard so many people talk about this series like ever since I started BookTube, and there's so many mixed opinions out there. Like, I know like specific YouTubers who love it, and I know specific YouTubers who do not love it. So I was really curious to see my opinion on it. And I will say, the start of Binding 13, I was a little bit iffy. So if you are going into this series and you're starting it and you're like, what the heck is going on? The start is definitely a little bit weird. There's some weird parts to it, but you just have to keep going because that does pass. When I got to like halfway through the... Oh my gosh. Just spilled my drink. Okay, we're just gonna leave that for a second. When I got halfway through the first book, it definitely started to pick up and get a lot better. I mean, by the end of this book, I was like, okay, I'm hooked. I need to go to the next one. And I went straight to Keeping 13. So you just have to keep going. And by the end of this one, I'm like so excited to read Joey and his girlfriend's story. I just haven't gotten there yet. I will say they are very large books. Like, you guys, these books are like 800 pages. So they are very long, but they're super fast paced. So it does not take long to get through it at all. It's really engaging, and yeah, I don't know if I said, but they are romance books. So I will say, look up the trigger warnings before you start these because there's a lot of heavy topics on it, including like child abuse and stuff. If you are touchy to those subjects, I would definitely maybe not read it, but overall, it's such a good story and I am loving it. I cannot wait to continue. I think there's 5 books so far in the series, and I do have the next 2. So I just need to get into them, and they are on Kindle Unlimited. Keeping 13 was actually the only book that I read in December, so love that for me. But we did reach 50 books in 2024, so. Oh, for my ratings, I gave this one 4.5, and this one I gave 4 stars. Also, I want to add in, I have been rereading the Magnolia Park series, and I did read Daisy Hates at some point throughout these months. I didn't write it down though, so I'm not quite sure when I read it. I reread the first book, Magnolia Parks, sometime in the summer last year, and then this one I read throughout the winter. I love the series, you guys know if you've been here. One of my favorite series. Is that lighting better? I don't really know what's going on with my camera. We are finally getting into 2025 reads. I would also like to say my reading goal this year is 75 books, and I've only read like 8 so far, if that actually. So we're not really off to the best start, but it's okay, because we're gonna get there. Anyways, I started off the year strong by reading The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and you guys, I love this series so much. This also has kind of like a sister series, the Caraval series, which is one of the very first book fantasy series that I read when I started my reading journey, so it always has like a special place in my heart. But I put off this series for so long. I don't know why, because I truly love both of the books that I read so far. I still have the third one to read, but I'm waiting until the paperback copy comes out before I get to it. But seriously, amazing. I loved this book so much. I don't want to give too much away because obviously it is a book in a series, but basically it just continues the story of Evangeline and her sister and Jax. It's a cozy fantasy too, so it's not anything like super high stakes. I feel like I am in a pillow when I'm reading this book. I don't know how to explain it other than that. It's just like so whimsical and light. It is YA, so it's definitely not anything like super intense and like crazy hard to understand, because I feel like that can happen a lot with fantasy series, as it's just like so much world building, but this just gets straight into the story and I love it. And then I continued my Magnolia Parks reread, so I got into the third book, which is The Long Way Home. I loved it. I'm not going to give anything away again because it's the third book, but oh, I forgot to tell you guys my rating on this one was 4 out of 5 stars. So we have some pretty good ratings. And then this one was 5 out of 5 because I love Magnolia and BJ so much. We're getting into February, and this book, you guys, changed my life, which I feel like everyone says with this book, but it's really, really good. Like, the hype is real. Okay, I got into The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I've never read anything by her before. This was my very first read by her, and it was so, so, so good. I have never read a historical fiction before. Actually, that's a lie. I think I have, like, in high school or middle school. I literally could not put this book down. I read it within a weekend, and it's like 550 pages. I basically read the whole thing in like 3 to 4 days. This takes place during World War II. It actually tells from like more of the women's perspective and what they experienced in the war. And this takes place in France, so it's pretty much right in the middle of everything, and when the Germans were invading. Obviously, it's devastating. It is so, so, so sad to see what they went through. I don't think it's based on a true story. Maybe it is, but either way, I can imagine it was honestly probably worse than what this book talked about. I just can't even imagine what it was like. Like, my heart goes out to anyone who experienced this or family of people who experienced this. Like, it truly is just awful. It was very, very eye-opening, and I'm really, really glad that I read it. So I'm excited to read another one of her books. I can't wait to get into some more historical fiction because I know she writes a lot of those genres. Overall, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Like I said, we have some pretty high ratings here, guys, except for this one. Next, I read Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. This is the 4th book in the Magnolia Park series. Again, this was a reread. I love the series. I love the characters overall, but unfortunately, there's a character in this book that I don't love, and he just like really irks me. So yeah, I know there's a lot of people who do like him as a character, and I just am not one of those people. So this was a 3.5 star. And the next book is literally my all-time favorite book of all time, which is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. And I'm going to read that physically because pretty much all of these I listened to on audiobook. I didn't feel like taking the time to actually physically read them because I have already read them before, so audiobook was just a lot easier. But Into the Dark, I will definitely be reading the physical book because I cannot explain my love for that book. It is truly unreal. It's so good. So, so, so good. I could sit here for hours and talk about it. All right, guys, we're on to the home stretch. Next up, I read First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston, and this is actually not a book I read. I listened to this on audiobook. Oh, you guys, I wanted to love this book, but at first I was definitely pretty into it. It's a very, very, very interesting story, unlike anything I've ever read before. Basically, we have this girl that's undercover, and she is sent on these missions, and so she's sent to live with this guy, date this guy, and I don't exactly know like what she's looking for, but there is this like higher up person that she orders to or does things for. Yeah, that's kind of the concept of the story. I don't want to get too much into it to give anything away, but I think the fact that I listened to this was probably my downfall. If I would have read this physically, I probably would have enjoyed it more. There were so many characters and so many different things going on that it made it really, really confusing to listen to, and I definitely just got like lost and just wasn't really into it anymore. So unfortunately, I gave this 2.5 stars out of 5. I'm sorry if anyone likes this. I probably ruined this for myself, but that's my feelings on that. Next up, I started reading A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. Never read anything by him before. This is a literary fiction. It's basically about the story of a grumpy old man who has recently lost his wife. The story starts off so interesting. It's so mundane and just like not, I don't know how to explain it. It's very much like boring almost. I hate to say that, but the way it starts off is really, really boring. I got like 40% into this and I literally had to stop reading because I was like, guys, what is going on here? I feel like there's no plot point, but it was definitely getting to some kind of like deeper meaning. I could tell. I was on vacation and I was like, I just want to read something that's like light and easy, and this was not giving that. So I did temporarily DNF it, but I probably will continue it. So I think I will continue it because I know so many people love this book and I want to know what the hype is about. I think I just need to continue it. So if you have read this, please give me some motivation in the comments to continue it because I need it. All right, guys, those are all the books that I read in the past 6-ish months. Definitely not a lot, but like I said, my reading did kind of slow down just with the work and everything. I have so many books like on my TBR shelf here that I'm like, I want to read so badly. So I'm currently reading Onyx Storm, and this is taking me quite a while to get through, but once I finish with this, I want to get into like some quicker, easier reads because I've been reading such long books recently. Anyways, I love you guys. If you've read any of these books, comment your thoughts down below, comment your ratings. I'd love to hear from you. Even if we do have differing opinions, I still think it's fun to hear how different our opinions can be on the same books. That's what I love about sharing on here and just talking about books in general. So anyways, I love you guys. I hope you all have a great day. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!
Cool. Yeah, some of those will be nice. Yeah.